Spring is in full bloom, and you know what that means, bowling fans.
Cinderella story, out of nowhere, a former greenskeeper now about to become the Masters champion. It looks like I'm a wreck. It's in the hole!
No, not golf season. It's the annual tradition that is the USBC Masters. And this year's edition was the wildest bouquet of craziness we've ever seen, as real-life Rocky Balboa, Gary Haines, used a kiss from his beloved to turn a nightmare into one of the sport's sweetest success stories. And we'll have him on the show to tell us all about it. And speaking of traditions, the collegiate bowling season is about to wrap up with a bang.
To all you graduates, as you go out into the world, my advice to you is, don't go. It's rough out there. Move back with your parents. Let them worry about it.
We'll have Julia Bond and Lauren Russo to give us the lowdown on the state of collegiate bowling and the blossoming opportunities for youth bowlers to transform their bowling talent into a degree in higher education. Plus, I'll tell you why moving in real life might seem quite scary, but in bowling, it's the only way to make your garden grow. It's all coming up next on this month's edition of The Sport of Bowling Show. Hello, bowling fans, and welcome to the Sport of Bowling Show. We have another great show for you this month, including in-depth interviews with USBC Masters champion Gary Haines and collegiate coaches Lauren Russo and Julia Bond. We'll also talk about why moving is the worst in real life, but why it's so important, even liberating, in bowling. PB Atkinson has the month off. So let's jump right into it with bowling's newest star, Gary Haines. So we have, as I mentioned, a very special guest coming on the show next. He is a real-life Rocky Balboa. He just came off winning the 2025 USBC Masters. It was one of the wildest shows I've ever seen in my whole life watching PBA, and it's been a long time I've been watching the PBA, and I'm really excited to get a chance to talk to him about his victory. Please give a big welcome to Gary Haines. Gary, how are you doing today, sir?
As you can imagine, I'm doing good.
I would think so. I would think so. So yeah, tell us what it's been like the last couple of days since you took home the Masters title, your first major victory on the PBA Tour.
You know, I'll have to admit the first couple of days were a little up and down. I did not bowl well for 18 frames. I'll never sugarcoat the fact that the TV lights got to me, the nerves got to me, and I struggled. I most certainly did. I got a bunch of lucky breaks that led to probably the greatest moment of my life, right? So, you know, that's really how it's been. I'm getting over that, and it's been good.
All right, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we get to it, I just kind of want to talk about the week. I know you've bowled the Masters 5 times before. You've made the cut twice, which is actually a really good record. So this was your third time making the cut into the top 64, but obviously first time making the show. So you're on the show, and I'm sure at that point, you know, you're starting to get a lot of advice from people, right? Like, what were you hearing from people? And then, you know, you probably had to formulate a plan in your head of how you were going to attack it, because you did have the 2 games, right? You could lose the first game, and then if you won the second one, you're still the champion. So what was that lead up to the show kind of like? And did you get any sleep that night?
I actually didn't get any sleep Friday night. So I was so tired Saturday that I was asleep by 8 o'clock Saturday. And it was really good that I fortunately got to go to the Saturday show and kind of see how it all works. And, you know, look at the stop. I was looking at the shot clock and seeing like all right, how's everybody doing with the shot clock? I'm like, am I going to be any close? Which didn't look like I was. And it was nice, do an interview with Kimberly and kind of get your face in front of the TV and, kind of break the ice with that. So it was luckily I got that. A lot of people tried to tell me just enjoy the moment, enjoy the show. And I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll just enjoy it. And I didn't enjoy most of that. Didn't have a lot of fun out there. At one point I'm like, I am making a fool of myself out here. There's no way we're winning this. There's no way. Yeah. So, and Simon was great. He's helped. He's, let me know how everything goes on the practice pair and how things will work. And hey, you could throw a shot or two, just make sure nothing's going on the pair. And I'm like, all right, cool. We built a lot of practice too, which I think I wish I would have cut back a little bit. There was a lot I learned from it.
Well, it sounded like you were, I think one of the things we try to do as bowlers is we're trying to gain respect for bowling. So we're trying to explain to people how hard it is to be on a TV show and how different it is, right, than during the week. And then, there's all these things that are going on in your head. And I think for the first time, we actually saw somebody with you who was completely transparent with what was going through your mind as the whole show was unfolding, right?
Right. I'm a very big self-talker. And, I think there was times I forgot there was even a mic on me, right? You forget, right? Because, I'm just going through the motions the same way I would any other match, right? And I'm a big self-talk guy. It wasn't working. I was self-talk. I was, I saw, the commentators, they're like, he's saying the right things. It's just not clicking. He's not responding to what he's saying, right? So, I guess it was good for people to see kind of the human side of what it's like to be on TV and not so robotic as some of these greatest bowlers make it seem like, right? They people out there, they look like they do it every day, right? It's like nothing to them being on TV.
Sure.
So maybe it was good for them to see no, it's not easy, right? The approaches are different. The atmosphere is different. We're in a different area of the bowling center. It's different. You got lights on you. You got, you're throwing a shot and the video feed is on the top of the screen, right? It's playing, you're walking and you're playing on top, right? You got a shot clock in front of you, telling you, hey, you better get going. There's so many things, the ads are on the lane that you're not used to seeing. There's, you're bowling and it's dead silent. So you can hear a pin drop when you start your approach, and it's a lot of scary things.
Sure.
I don't think people understand how scary it is. Everybody's very easy on social media to be like, oh, I could have did that. This guy is terrible. They're like, they have no idea the wildness that's going through your head during a TV show. It's crazy.
Sure. So it sounded like from your self-talk that you were okay with losing that first game. You felt you probably knew you were going to be nervous and it was going to take you a little bit of time to get accustomed. You still had a chance to win that first match, but was that sort of the plan? Hey, let's just get comfortable the first game. If I win it, great. If I don't, at least be ready for game number 2 to have the second chance. Was that the strategy?
I feel like because I wasn't starting off hot, I started trying to tell myself that. And I think even in the beginning, and honestly, I think that's another spot I went wrong, right? The whole kind of trying to talk myself out of the fact that I'm bowling for 50,000 in a major title, I think was a bad mindset to go into. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, learning a lot from this, even in my interview, I went through this mindset. Well, hey, I already won 50,000. This is the most money I've ever won throwing a bowling ball. I'm already a winner. Hey, this job ain't done. And I feel like I definitely, looking back on that, it's I should have embraced what was ahead of me and the pressure of bowling for another 50,000, for bowling for a major title. I feel like I should have embraced it more than fighting it off, right? I was trying to fight the pressure off rather than just embrace it. And
well, it's easy for us to say, right? We weren't out there bowling, the guy who might end up being the greatest bowler of all time for a Masters title.
Like I said in a lot of interviews, I knew going in, I tried to put off who I was bowling. Yes, I'm very good. I tried to not really worry about, because I knew if I threw it well, it didn't matter who was there, right? That was the goal. Throw it well. I failed. I failed miserably at that goal. But I knew the battle was going to be me and my first time on TV. And that certainly failed. Like, I know, I can't lie. Like, it failed. So I tried to really, and, you know, even all those matches, right? I tried to always push off who they were, because 90% of the time on these tougher patterns, it's you against the lanes. And if you go with that mindset, I truly think good things will happen in the end, right? You'll make better shots if you really focus on what you're doing on the lanes, right? So sure, it's tough going out there knowing you're bowling one of the best in the world. But I knew from the get-go it was going to be me against the atmosphere and the lanes.
Yeah, so the second game starts of the match, and you know it's not going well, right, for you, but Simo is not putting you away, and so
fortunately he didn't seem to like his look on the right lane, which kept me alive, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I felt like the strategy was, hey, let's just get one strike on that lane and spare the rest, and it'll give me a 3-bagger because I'm not going to miss the left lane, and I shoot 2-teen, and he's not going to shoot 2-teen.
No.
But it didn't quite play out that way, and it felt like when you got up, you know, to go talk to Dino before your 8th frame, you were realizing, I'm in this match. Like, I can win this match, and I can't get it off my hand.
Yeah.
Right.
So I posted War Tours in my story. You remember the replacements and the stickum part where, right, the guy's got the sticky stuff on his hand and he can't even get the ball off in the end zone.
Right.
Like, that's what I felt like.
Right.
It ain't going. It ain't coming.
I got a clip here from that moment. It's when you're talking to Dino, and it's going to take us all the way through the 9th frame. Let's watch it, and then I want you to tell me what was happening during all that, because I have my opinion, and I'm sure the rest of the world has theirs, but I want to hear it from you. So let's watch the clip first.
I'm not comfortable with where I'm blunt. Like, I'm not comfortable. That's it. So
what is it going to take you to feel comfortable?
Here, that's it.
I want you to do me a favor. Before you go through that shot, you go to your wife, give her a kiss.
It's not a bad idea. All right, Simonson, left lane. Oh, he did get high. That was a miss in, though.
Oh, this thing is FFO.
You know what I mean? So I'm throwing better shots because I don't see what the ball should.
Get it out of your head. Go to your wife. Give her a kiss. I don't care what you do. You got to change something in your head because you're panicking. You feel like you're in, quicksand.
I know.
So breathe.
I mean, this is where you kind of like cinch up your belt, roll up your sleeves, and go, you know what, I'm not going down without a fight.
This is Rocky and Apollo Creed.
Hold on.
Right here.
Get ready to call timeout.
Oh, he's on my out? We're good. I'm good.
All right. You got it?
There is a lot going on in that head.
Well, he didn't give his wife a kiss. He can strike out to win this thing. Not too many times do you get a messenger on a 5-pin. In the 9th frame of a major championship, you got one.
Runaway Brooklyn, caves of 5.
Yep. Make that the 8th frame. Here comes the 9th frame.
Take time out. Time out.
There you go.
All right, you got away with a bunch of bad ones. Now just throw one good one. That's it.
He's saying all the right things.
Come here.
Finally, here we go.
Come here, let's go.
Come on, Gary.
Well, let's see.
One of the best of your life, right here.
A kiss from Lauren make the difference.
So I watched that, Gary, and I get tears in my eyes when I see you kiss your wife. I mean, it's so great. I mean, I don't know if you watch this show regularly. My first episode, I talk about love kind of being the answer to everything, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, when Dino told you to kiss your wife, I'm sure you're like, that. It's not happening.
I'm like, what? Like, nobody's ever done this. What are you, crazy? Right? And then I throw another awful shot, right? Throw another one. I get the messenger. I'm just like, you can see my face. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, what are you doing? And then I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. I'm watching the shot clock drop because that was always the talk. If we were going to call timeout ever, not even for that situation, it was like, let the clock run down so you get a little extra breather, right? So I'm watching the clock go down and I'm like, screw it. Screw it. Right? Because at that point, what did I have to lose? What did I have to lose? It was either going to be I was going to kiss my wife and throw another bad shot and look like even more of an idiot than I already did. Or, thank God, had the greatest moment of my life.
Yeah, and you threw it great. I mean, did that actually calm you down to make the shot? Okay.
Couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. I took a deep breath, which I did not do for 18 frames. And magic? I don't know. Like, did it work? Something happened, even her, she was like, I'm calling her over and she's like, what?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
And then, she just kissed me and goes, all right, come on. And maybe that's all I needed was for her to be like, hey, because she's, when she can be, she is the way Martell was all week, right? She's the girl sitting there. She's a bowler. She knows bowling. She's not on top tier level, but, we both coach a high school team. So she's a bowler. And and she's my support and regionals and whatever. When she's there, she is my big support, right? And when I'm struggling getting out of it, she is the person to talk me back into it, right? Like when things are going bad, she's the one to support me and be like, no, you gotta relax, man. You're doing great. You just gotta throw better shots. What are you doing? Like, relax. She's always been this big support. So the fact that in that moment, I give her a kiss and she's like, come on, you got this. Like, maybe that's all I needed, right? Maybe after the first game, I should have just been like, when we had the little bit of TV break, I should have went and talked to her because I would, in any other scenario outside of a TV show, if she was there, I would have.
Sure.
Right? In between frames at a regional, I start struggling a little bit. It's like, I go talk to her, whether she can give me any advice on the lane or not, just talking to her. And she's always going to be one. She's the type of person, she's going to tell you how it is. Like she could have been like, you're throwing it horrible. What are you doing? Like, like she will tell you that. She will tell you straight to your face, you are terrible. Like you need to get out of whatever you're doing. Right. And so sometimes just the support, she is my biggest support. Like I met her bowling when I was 13 years old. Like, she is not just another girl. She is she's not.
That's so awesome. And then, you get up in the 10th and you need a mark, which is, no easy thing to do. Throw another great shot, leave a 10 pin. And as I'm watching it, man, I'm like nervous with you. I'm like, but I think he's going to throw a good shot here. I think he's okay. And then you leave the 10 pin and I absolutely knew you were going to make it. I had no doubt. Did you?
I felt pretty confident. And the funniest thing about this whole deal with the 10 pin, because everybody's like, he hooked at it. Earlier in the week, I preach throwing straight at everything. Earlier in the week, I was having a little issue. I missed 3 6-pins to the left. I don't know what was going on. My lineup, whatever it was, something was slightly off this week when it came to shooting spares on the right side this week. And, when something like that happens in your head, you got to make an adjustment, right? So I started hooking at everything just this week. I normally am 100% throw it straight, right? But the longer pattern, letting it hook, you don't have to worry about the ball like really taking off in the back, right? Because we're not bowling on 38 feet or 40 feet, whatever. It was long enough where hooking at it was pretty safe on that pattern, right? I would have had to really the missed room I feel like was a little bit better hooking it, but I preach throwing straight at it. So that was already a funny thing about that. And and like I was so comfortable in that moment. Like even the commentating, they're like, that must feel like 120 feet. It didn't. I finally felt comfortable. I walked up there, picked where I was looking for that, and I just rolled it off the hand the same way. And
so you were close. I mean, you thought it was going to take a game to get comfortable. It was a game in 8 frames, so you're just 8 frames off.
Kiss me once. Let's call a spade a spade. I truly believe I don't kiss my wife and she don't say, "Let's go, babe."
Well, I mean, you talked about it like this is something you're always going to have together with her. So talk a little bit about that and some of the things people have been saying. I know there's a T-shirt out there now about kissing.
Yeah. So Flanagan quickly jumped on that deal. I talked to him. I still have to put my order in to get some from him.
You should probably get some free ones.
He's helping me out, for sure. And then when we got to league Monday night, our friends put her picture on a shirt and it says "Kiss me for $20." Like,
oh man,
like it's just like every edit, every video of those last few minutes, good, bad, joking, like. There was a meme where it says the first viewing is just me and her kissing. The second viewing is her kissing $100,000. Like the replay is her kissing $100,000. It's just like it's incredible. It just.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I'm really happy for you. And I know we talked a little bit, like you're probably not planning on bowling too many more events. I think you said you're going to bowl the Players Championship.
Yeah, I was already bowling the Players. I'm really trying to figure out the TOC because really that's the last one for the season. I'm really trying to figure out the TOC. I really might make it to that one, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm bowling, if I don't get too far at the Players, I'm going to bowl. There's actually a regional in Baltimore that I'm going to go down and bowl, but for the national stuff, bowling the Players. And I'm closer to not bowling the TOC, which is awesome. I mean, it's TOC. It's great.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So I know you said it's barely sunk in still that you've won the Masters, but can you kind of put a little bit of perspective on it for folks about, what this means to you and then, what you think it's going to mean to you as, the years go by and, it's something you'll always be able to look back on?
It's, years ago, I made the decision that I am a good bowler. I am not the best. And I still don't believe that I'm one of the best. Those guys are amazing, right? I had it together for 1 week. They have it together week in and week out. They're amazing, right? And years ago, I put work and a career before bowling. So I bowl, like I said, I bowl the Masters every year, and the goal is always to make a cut, maybe get a few matches in. Never in my world did I think I would go on a 6-0 run, in fact, and make a TV show, let alone win. That is a dream that we all have as bowlers. That's a dream, right? To go out there, compete with the best of the best and win. That is a dream. And it is something that I get to remember and have, walking around. I still can't believe. I mean, I don't know if it's sitting back there. I don't know if you see it on the piano.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never in my life do I walk down the stairs and look and see that and think, that's going to be there, right? You always thought, okay, maybe I'll sneak, I have 1 regional win and 5 runner-ups. Maybe I'll sneak a few extra regional wins in, right? Battling on the weekends, right? A couple New England Bowling Association, great events up in New England. Maybe I'll have a couple of those. Never in my life did I think I would be a PBA tour champion, let alone a major and the Masters. Never in my life. So it is something that I hope I inspired, guys that didn't put bowling 100% in front of them. They work and they bowl when they can. That it doesn't mean it's not possible. You put the work in, you keep getting better. You need 1 week for it to just click, just like me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I have so much respect for guys like you that go out and compete in these events. And I think that's what's beautiful about the Masters. Like this is the tournament for guys like you that don't compete on tour full time. It gives you a chance to go out and compete with the big boys. And sometimes, you show what you can do if you've done it, right?
Right. I've battled with some of these guys in regionals, it's not like you never competed against them when you bowl at the competitive level, right? Go out to the Open Championships, try to put up a number, bowl the side events. Like I won the BTM in 2017 in Vegas. Like, so it's not like I'm a bowl 6 games a week guy and went out there and won the Masters. It's not what happened, right? I put some time in. I learned as much as I can. I am nowhere near the caliber bowler these guys are, but for 1 week, I put it together.
Well, congratulations, Gary. I'm really super happy for you. I loved watching you on TV, and I'd love to see you on maybe put some of those learnings to use on another show.
My God, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come on with me today, and good luck. And hope you do well at the Players Championship and the Tournament of Champions.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. That is Gary Haines, the current USBC Masters champion. And it was so awesome to have him on. What a wild show. What an amazing 3 minutes of action there. And some great shots from him coming down the stretch to take home the Masters title. Coming up next here on the Sport of Bowling show, we've got Bowling Explained, and it's all about moving. Why it sucks, but why it's important. That's coming up next. Moving. The last time I did it, 10 years ago, I distinctly remember a moment when it felt like my possessions were multiplying like that scene in one of the Harry Potter movies. And wondering if it would ever come to a merciful end, I said, probably sounding a lot like a drunk person who prays to God right before he gets sick, this is the last time I'll ever move. So of course, being the terrible self-listener I am, I've decided to move again. And it is every bit as bad with 10 additional years of multiplying possessions as I remember it being the last time. In bowling, we often feel the same way about moving. Although when we make a ball change or a 2-in-1, we aren't dragging along boxes of old National Geographic magazines and that 30s era Zenith console radio we bought in an antique store in Snohomish, Washington back in 2001. But the emotional baggage and fear of the unknown that comes with moving in real life can also be just as pain-inducing when it comes to making the decision to make a move in bowling. At the highest level, the ability to understand when the moves are coming, when to make them, and exactly what they are is almost always the difference between winning and losing. At the recent PBA World Series of Bowling, I watched this dynamic play out over the entire tournament, with examples repeating literally thousands of times as the competition progressed. I distinctly recall one example that probably illustrates the importance of moving perhaps better than any, which was a sequence that occurred between two of the top players in the world during the qualifying rounds of the Shark Championship. In the middle of Game 3 during the second round of qualifying, E.J. Tackett and Chris Vai were each starting to see some subtle transition after getting off to a quick start in Games 1 and 2. Tackett was plus 99 and Vai was plus 88. I'd spoken with Tackett prior to the start of the block, and he showed me the ball he'd planned to switch to once the transition started happening, which was the same make and model as the one he planned to start with, but with a slightly weaker pin position and a little bit less surface. As soon as he began to see the signs of the first ball not doing what he wanted it to, he made the ball change and went on to shoot 230 in Game 3, ultimately qualifying second for match play, earning a one-round bye, and helping him go on to win the tournament. Vai tried to employ a safer strategy, deciding to stay in the same bowling ball he started with through the end of the game, perhaps willing to sacrifice just a bit of potential score in return for not making a blind move that could have brought a much lower score into play. But he threw a couple of marginal shots, which tend to happen when your miss room is going away and you know you need to throw it perfect, in the middle of the game, and shot 178. He did make a great ball change late in the game and bounced back with a solid final 3 games to make the cut in 11th place, but he missed one of the 8 match play buys. A 223 instead of a 178 in that pesky Game 3 would have secured him a bye, and Chris eventually finished 13th in the tournament. As in life, the conditions in bowling are constantly changing, and a willingness to move is an integral part of the journey. In fact, it is a necessity that allows us to continue to reach our highest potential and experience the freedom of understanding ourselves, purging things that we are holding on to for no good reason, and getting to know our own strengths and weaknesses. Although it'd be nice to earn a trophy for moving in real life, I feel like I deserve one for this move. At least in bowling, that is something that's possible. All right, folks, hope you enjoyed that segment on moving. And speaking of moving, we've got 2 of the biggest movers and shakers in collegiate bowling and also the PWBA Tour joining us on the show right now. First of all, these 2 teams actually bowled each other at the NCAA regionals this weekend, had one of the most epic matches I've ever seen. And first, let's start with Julia Bond. She is the assistant coach at Nebraska and PWBA superstar. How are you, Julia?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, in spite of the fact that I'm moving. But your opponent in that match this weekend, which was pretty epic, is a fellow PWBA star and champion and Team USA member, as you are as well, Julia, and also the 2022-23 Coach of the Year in your first year as a coach, Lauren Russo. How are you doing this morning, Lauren?
I'm great. How are you doing?
As I mentioned, I'm doing as well as can possibly be expected for someone who's in the middle of moving.
Yeah.
But great. So let's just start with the match this weekend. I know it wasn't something we were planning on talking about, but it happened. And I mean, it was an amazing match. Let me do a little setup. I was at Nebraska earlier this year to do Bill Straub's Hall of Fame video, and I was so impressed with the place. I've never been to it before. I mean, it reminded me of like a big time, college football program. I mean, you guys have everything you can possibly imagine, Julia. And then, Lauren, I've never been to your place, but I can't imagine you guys have quite the setup there. I mean, it's a smaller program, sort of an upstart program, but you've done such amazing things with it. And you pushed Nebraska, one of the juggernaut programs in collegiate bowling to the brink. How have you been able to do that?
Just instill confidence in these young women that their mind to doing something that they can achieve it, and they just have to believe it and just really trust the process of what's happening and just be okay with the results.
And Julia, you guys able to pull it off in the end there. I mean, close traditional traditional match, 5 pins. And then you tied in one of the craziest finishes in the Baker round that I've ever seen, and then ended up losing the roll off, which was a 5-frame Baker, and then took it home in the best of 7. But what were you telling your team while that was all unfolding, all the craziness?
Right, a lot of it was just staying patient. Like before we left, we had a lot of conversations about what can we control and what can we not control. And so, carry is one of those things. Situationally, how your opponent is doing, we cannot control their carry or how well they're doing. And so in those tight matches, it was just like focus on what you're trying to achieve. If things don't go your way, we have to keep pushing forward. We have to move on. We can't dwell on that messenger that didn't connect, that 7-10 on a shot that you thought you threw well enough. Those are things that we just don't have time to be stuck with. So it was a lot of keep thinking. Sometimes anger can be motivating, but there's other times where it gets you kind of bogged down. And so we tried to make sure it's like, okay, guys, keep thinking, keep working through that. We'll figure it out. And so, fortunately for us, we came out on the right side of it. It was a lot of just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, it was a fun match to watch, and it kind of brings us to our first official topic in our discussion, which is, when I was growing up, there were some good collegiate bowlers, but you didn't have like stacked teams, right? Like it feels like nowadays, you've got some teams that from top to bottom and even on the bench, like I'm amazed at some of the players that don't even get into bowl. So just talk about, the landscape of how talented the collegiate bowlers are, and how do you think that's happened? Why do we have so many great collegiate bowlers? Lauren, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been out of college for a long time, and my college era, along with Julia's, was just a little different than what we see now. I think a lot of it is the media, what the media is showing. Obviously, being a 28-year-old, I really watch women's basketball, and a lot of it is just admiring like Caitlin Clark, and we'll call her Paige Buckets. We see a lot of those women out there now, and the younger generation actually watches it and pays close attention to it. And then they look at the bowling aspect of it, like Kelly Kulick. There's videos of Kelly Kulick winning national championship, Stephanie Nation, now Johnson, bowling on TV as well. So just being able to create their own experience by seeing what they've seen on the media. I also think resources are a lot different than what they were couple years back. So a lot of the resources that the girls have now weren't as available as they are. And I think that really motivates them to have the best college experience, to go to the best college and to just learn a lot. And then fast forward, when they graduate, they want to go on the PWBA tour. They see Julia and I out there. They see like Shannon O'Keefe and all of the stars out there currently. So a lot of it is just we're creating a path for the younger generation to follow and to possibly make it better for the next generation that's coming up.
Yeah, and Julia, you're around the same age, as Lauren, and was a collegiate star yourself at Nebraska. What do you attribute, all the talent? I mean, it feels like even since you've graduated, it's exploded even further. So what do you think is going on there when it comes to all this talent that we see?
And I feel like Lauren really nailed it with the answers that she said. When we were in college, I feel like every team had maybe one or two superstars, and with a good team and like with a good bench, but you had about one or two. And nowadays, like what you said, you have entire starting lineups that could generally, honestly would start on any other team in the top four. And so it's really crazy. And so I agree with Lauren. I think a lot of it is media, just social media. They're seeing these people to look up to and to aspire. And I think the other thing is I also think coaching has gotten a little bit better. You have your traditional kind of the people who I would call maybe like the pillars of like collegiate bowling, who kind of started everything. But now you're seeing, again, you're having younger people like me and Lauren kind of in these positions, kind of carrying the mantle, if that makes sense, and putting our experience into it. And so now you're seeing more and more college programs crop up with good coaching. And so I think that's a big part of it. Again, with the social media, I feel like they're able to just go on YouTube and find information on how to get better. And instead of having to actually like find a coach and go in person, you can learn a ton of things on YouTube. You have Brad and Kyle. You have Mark Baker, who has this YouTube series. And so the information, I think, is there to get better. And overall, in general, just this kind of movement of women's sports, like what Lauren said, I feel like people are becoming much more interested and invested in women's sport. And I think that pushes them to want to succeed. And I think they're just flat out more talented. And again, I think they're willing to learn, but we're just seeing more and more talented girls come up.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I have a topic list, and we're going to move one topic. We'll go back to it after this question, though. But you mentioned, just the fact that there are so many opportunities out there. And I think, especially for women, when someone comes up to me and says, hey, I'm trying to get my daughter into sports. What do you think? And they don't even know anything about the fact that I work in the bowling industry. And I say, hey, you got to get them into bowling. There's so many opportunities for scholarships. They don't even have to be, Jillian Martin, right? They can be just a good, solid bowler, and they'll get picked up by a program, right? With scholarship opportunities. And I think that's even gotten better since even you guys were in college, right? Lauren, we can start with you.
Yeah, I think the scholarship opportunities is what really attracts these young players and stars to come bowl collegiately. I think a lot of what they see is, like Jillian Martin and Victoria Verano, they're doing NLI deals, or not deals, but like NLI stuff where they're promoting a bunch of, I think Victoria does some like drinks or something and they see that on the media, so they're like, oh, I want to be like her, I want to be like Jillian. We see Jillian on the PWBA, and she's won many titles out there, so they see the younger stars doing these cool things and they start working towards achieving those goals as well, and just working hard and just really trying to get that same experience.
Yeah, and SMART has been a huge piece of that, and I know that's expanded even since you guys were in college. But the schools are even actually seeking talent for that area and offering scholarships, right, Julia?
Yeah, right. And going back like on SMART, and just like the difference between when Lauren and I were in our youth careers to now is just like for me, for example, a lot of my scholarship came from obviously like junior gold tournaments, but just what was local to Illinois. That was predominantly how I did it. Whereas now you have like the SYCs and you have these like youth tournaments that are in different parts of the country, almost like its own kind of like mini tour. And again, youth being able to travel, to meet people, to have all these experience that, going into college, I think is great. And so, yeah, with the college climate changing a little bit, there's still a lot of things we don't know. We're still waiting on some answers, but, working on integrating smart money into that. It's been interesting. Like from our perspective, Lauren, I'm not sure how like you feel about it, but it's just been interesting conversations, how smart and potentially paying athletes, and just how this is a ever evolving situation. It's been interesting. It's different for sure.
Yeah, definitely different. I will say when we were in school, it was almost like you couldn't do that because there was rules behind it. However, now it's like, okay, these athletes are getting what they deserve, and to be on the coaching side of it, I think it's incredible for the sport and NCAA bowling. And if anything, it would be growing it, and it's still expanding. And yeah, it's really cool to see.
Speaking of rules, we have there's some things about college bowling that if you don't follow it that closely may not make a lot of sense for some people. Like, for example, the difference between NCAA competition and the USBC collegiate programs. Some schools, they do both. Some schools only do one or the other. And a lot of people don't understand why that is the case. Like, for example, Maryville, you had a chance to be in the NCAA championship. You just missed out on that this weekend, but you'll be at the ITCs. And then, Julia, your program, obviously you compete on one side. But explain that for people. What is the distinction? Is it a school-based decision? What are the rules surrounding it that might affect the programs? What is the distinction basically? And we'll start with you, Lauren.
Yeah. So when I took over this program in 22, Brandy Kordaluski, Brandy Branca, she had just kept going to ITCs. And the more I think about it, the more it's like, well, it's just another opportunity to, bowl for a national championship. And to be within the top 16 in the ITC field, I feel like that's pretty prestigious to even get there. There's 80 teams that possibly make it to sectionals, and only 4 make it out. So we just see it as another opportunity to extend our season and to bowl for a national championship and to get some airtime on TV. Under my first year of coaching, we were fortunate enough to make the TV show and actually bowl Shannon and her girls at McKendree. So we definitely put Maryville on the map in terms of that. Little deja vu as well, being on the McKendree team with Shannon a while back. It feels like I was one of those players that was a part of the team that put McKendree on the map. So just having it as a player aspect and a coaching aspect was definitely something cool to be a part of. And again, it just goes back to bowling for another national championship.
Yeah, Julia, same question for you.
Right. On our side is definitely more of a personal decision. And it's something that Coach Straub and Coach Klempa, their mindset on it was more being a D1 school and looking at other sports in the way that they do their programs. You don't see a lot of other D1 sports do their D1 championship and then go and compete in the D2 championship. So it's more of just kind of keeping that distinction. Like USBC is fabulous and great. Like I did ISCs. I did the singles portion when I was a player, and we encourage our girls if they want to do that part. You know, we're more than happy to support them and have them do that. But that's just something that Coach Straub and Coach Klempa felt very strongly about, and that's something that we just continue to do to this day. So it's more of a personal kind of decision, really, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does make sense. I just know as a fan, sometimes folks are like, hey, how come they're not bowling this national championship, but we saw them in the other one? So thanks for clearing that up for people.
Sorry, and I guess the other part of it is because it doesn't always go the other way. So like us as a D1, we can do the D2, but the D2 can't do ours, if that makes sense. And so it's kind of like, not that I don't want to say that's unfair, but it's just, again, kind of, I don't want to say staying in our lane, but just we can go both ways, but they can't go the other way. So it's just like we just kind of step out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And to Lauren's point, it's prestigious winning a national championship either way, because you're basically bowling against the top teams in the country either way, with the exception of a few, obviously, in the ITCs. But something that's been pretty crazy. It feels like it's calmed down a little bit since it changed. But it's the transfer portal. I know when that first opened up, and there were people transferring before the transfer portal happened, but now it for a short time it felt like, hey, nobody's ever going to stay 4 years at the same school anymore, right? But just talk about how that's been, how it's affected your ability to recruit, and then what are some of the things that you've had to do to ensure that you're able to retain players in this day and age. Lauren, again, we'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah. So the transfer portal is a very cool and special place as a coach. As a player, it can be scary. You just aren't sure. You enter into something and you hope that another coach welcomes you and wants you. So that can definitely be hard on the players. On the coaching aspect, I had 2 girls who transferred this past year who is currently bowling with us. And they talk about it was the best decision that they've ever made. When I first took over the program at Maryville, we had 1 girl who was a part of in the transfer portal, and she talked about just how scary it was, because you just don't know. You don't know where you're going to go. You have an idea of where you want to go, but you hope that team has a spot on the roster open. I see it as, just, challenging yourself and challenging what you believe in, and kind of sticking to that process and trusting that process, that you can go down a route if you put your mind to it. And this past year, we picked up 2 girls from there, like I said previously, and it turned out to be one of the best things possible for our program, not only because it gave us 5 girls to bowl with, but it also gave us an opportunity for other players to expand their knowledge from what they've already learned at their previous school. So it's definitely a cool place to look into. And nowadays it's, like Julia said, the coaching is just so much better that it makes the athletes want to stay and not really want to jump around. We don't really see many players, go from USBC to NCAA or NCAA to USBC. So if they enter the portal, they probably enter it and just stick with whatever side they're on. But again, I enjoy it. I have picked up a few girls from there.
Yeah, Julia, you kind of see the same thing, or because your program has been so established, is it slightly different for you in terms of what you're seeing in how the program works with the transfer portal?
Yeah, it's a little different. We dabble in it. So we like when like the window actually opened up, and so we check it out, we see what's going on, who's in, stuff like that. But just traditionally, the way that our program has been, we don't tend to run into transfers very often. And to be honest with you, the way that Coach Klempa and I recruit and have been recruiting is that we do it kind of a few years in advance, and so we already kind of have our numbers figured out. Again, I'm sure Lauren, similarly, you know, whether you have like a spreadsheet, you're kind of doing your math. How many scholarships do I have? Who's leaving when? Does this girl have an extra year? What is the mathing? And so sometimes we have to be very sure about what our numbers are. And there's times where we just don't know our projected numbers or what our projected scholarship is. And so sometimes it's hard to kind of go in on a transfer, or we've had girls reach out to us like, hey, I'm in the transfer portal. Looking for an opportunity. And there's times where, looking at what year they are and how much eligibility they have left, and then looking at our roster, we just don't have a spot. We're full for that year because we've already done our recruiting. And so I agree with Lauren, though. I think it's a wonderful place because, when you're 18 years old and you're deciding where you want to go to school, it is a big decision. It has to feel right. It has to feel like home. And, sometimes unforeseen things, come up. And if it doesn't feel right, then I, encourage people to consider it. It could lead to, much better opportunities, your happiness. And really, at the end of the day, all this is already stressful enough. And so it's I think, very imperative for you to be somewhere that feels comfortable and feels more like home. So I do think that the transfer portal is a great tool for student athletes to find out where their place is. Because again, we're already trying to find our place in the world. But for us, it does look a little bit different. We tend to dabble and check it out.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. One of the nice things I think about you guys being able to coach in college is you get the summers sort of off. I mean, you're not completely off, right? I mean, you're still doing some work, but you get to bowl the PWBA tour. Mm-hmm. And so you guys have both had very, very solid careers. Julia, obviously, 3 wins and a Queen's title. Lauren, you got your first title last season, and your career has just been kind of like every year. It feels like you double the amount of money you make, and you make more and more match plays and shows. So let's just talk a little bit about the PWBA season, which is going to get started here in just a few weeks, and what your expectations are coming into the season. Lauren, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even believe it's going to be here in like 4 weeks. Yeah, I mean, having the summer to really kind of focus on me, I feel like it rejuvenates my love and passion for the sport as a coach. I do a lot of what would I do if I was coaching my girls. I have those moments a lot. And it just reminds me, I feel like it has been just really humbling to be able to do both. I truly believe that this coaching position has given me a different kind of perspective on the sport because I feel like I'm able just to be myself when I compete. And when you're yourself, you do a lot of great things. And the past couple of years, I've definitely been putting myself in closer positions to win. And this past season, I was very lucky, grateful, however you want to say it, to win my first PWBA title. And it was against my good friend, Jordan, and 2 roommates. So those moments are always special. And it's now like, okay, it happened last season. So what can we do to make it better, 1% better every time that I show up? And I think a lot of what I do on tour is for, the little girls who are watching, or the young women who are watching, who are part of my program, who want to be successful. And I've always said that leadership comes from the top. So I have to be able to help lead them. So that means I have to be on my best behavior when I bowl as well. So,
I've never seen you kick anything, Lauren. You seem like you're always on good behavior.
Yeah, there's times where, we look at any other sport when performances are bad, and we see like I watched the NCAA women's basketball final yesterday, and Dawn Staley, who is, I think, a living legend as a coach, and I idolize her in just about every aspect. She was frustrated yesterday, and she let some words out on TV, and there was times where she smacked her forehead, and I was like, yep, I know how she's feeling as a coach, as a player. And it just, everything eventually works out, whether, hard losses kind of suck, but there's something bigger and better that is coming.
Okay. And Julia, I know we talked a little bit when I was there at Nebraska about, your feelings about the upcoming season, and you said you feel like it's going to be a good year for you. Talk a little bit about maybe some of the things you've been working on and what your expectations are going into the next PWBA season.
Yeah. I'm very excited about this upcoming season. I feel like it's been a lot more like mental and emotional work than like physical stuff. I feel like my physical game for the past couple of years has always been in a pretty good place. I feel like with the game that I have, I can always put myself in a position to win, but sometimes the mental and emotional game has been kind of a little bit of a roller coaster the last couple of years. And I truly agree with Lauren about it. It's essentially like a balancing act. Like there's times where I've had kind of meh feeling seasons, but then when I come back to work and I'm around the girls, like they make me forget about how like my performance and like whatever is self-worth thing spiral I'm going down, because they just, I don't know, they just brighten up my life. They brighten up my day. Like it's something outside of myself. It's something bigger than myself. And so I'm very grateful for this position and for the girls for that reason. But as far as like the emotional stuff, last season was a little up and down for me. I've had high expectations ever since 2021. And I feel like I've been trying to like chase those feelings and those moments. But as we know, expectations can kind of make or break you sometimes. And I feel like I've been just essentially figuring myself out still. I feel like people like to think that when you enter like your mid-20s, like your frontal lobe is developed, you know everything, you're good. No, I feel like I'm finally getting to that point. I just turned 29 in January. And I don't know, if it felt like the universe shifted a little bit. I was just like, whoa, I'm in the last year of my 20s. And again, it was more exciting than anything. I was just like, dang, I turned 30 next year. Like, I feel like my life is now finally like starting, if that makes sense. And so, but anyway, so at the end of the last season, emotionally, I had some moments where I was like, this isn't fun. This is supposed to be fun. This used to be fun. How can I need to do something different. I need to change. And so I actually have been attending therapy. I found somebody that I connected with to try to kind of unravel kind of some thoughts and learning how to challenge them. And so it's been very nice to kind of go through that process. And so I feel like on the mental and emotional side, I've been preparing myself a little bit better on that end. And what Lauren said really resonated with me is just, it's so much better and easier when you're out there being who you are. And I feel like there's been moments where I haven't been like myself, kind of worried about what other people think, just how am I being perceived and stuff like that. But again, something about being in the last year of my 20s just kind of like clicked. It's just like, no, you're like, it's okay. It's okay to be who you are. And it's regardless of how people think, as long as like you're happy and you're okay with how you are, that's all that matters. And so I'm really excited to take that mindset into the tour season. And along with, physical stuff I've been working on, just a little bit of timing stuff, just kind of cleaning things up. I feel like every off season, that's what it is. What was my trouble spot? This is what it was. Clean it up and then, move forward. So I feel like that's where I'm at right now.
That sounds like good advice. Being yourself. I think Oscar Wilde said, "Be yourself because everyone else is taken."
Yeah. It's a good one.
Well, Julia, Lauren, thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. Julia, good luck at the Nationals coming up next weekend, right?
Yes.
And Lauren, good luck at ITCs and congratulations on a great NCAA season. I mean, you pushed Nebraska to, I know Julia's probably got some short fingernails right now because that was a close match.
Yeah, it was a lot of this. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, like, again, I didn't get a chance to tell you, like, you guys did amazing. Like,
Thank
like
you.
when after our first like round matches, like Paul and I came together, it's just like they're doing this better than we are. You guys played it much better than we did. Like our game plan worked, it was fine, but again, seeing those re-oils and what the lanes turned into, we're like, oh yeah, our game plan was not actually the best game plan. Like you guys by far, like knew from the beginning, like you had a much better plan, and so we had to kind of rearrange in order to make sure that we had a chance to play that part of the lane against you guys. Because, like I said, you guys did amazing. Like you played just again fabulous the whole time. It was great. It was fun. Like after it was said and done, it's just like, that's kind of how you would hope something like that goes down, honestly. So
I mean, if you put yourself in position to win every time, I mean, as a coach, can't really get mad about that, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
We've been in we won conference a couple weeks ago, so we've been riding a good momentum wave. We had a good showing at Music City and Nashville the week before. But yeah, I mean, definitely the re-oils were very different. Even just who you were bowling with, obviously that changed a lot of things as well. Like where were they playing in the lane? What balls were they using? What we saw the first match against Arch State was definitely not what we saw with Nebraska. And it didn't matter if Nebraska was playing a little further left than us. They were definitely different every time that we bowled, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then that center, like Pittsburgh, like the last time we were in Pittsburgh, like the scores were still that low. Like I think you guys still had the top series at 10-20, 10-30.
Yeah.
Your team game, I think that was like the highest. And then you see Jack shooting 12, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's just the places that we go. Pittsburgh, that again, it's old. It's like
I do think the pins had something to do with that. That is 100% sure. They were the Linz pins, so they're a little heavier than like Brunswick, and I don't even know what the other pins are. Yeah, but let me tell you, those wrap 10s and were brutal at times. And
yeah, it was crazy. Like you could tell. So it was like the pins, like Dougie from Youngstown State, same, like he's from that area. He knows that center. He's just like the outside suck, but that was where we had to kind of be. Inside was too messy. Yeah, like after the real, so you had to be right, but that center doesn't like right, but that's where you had to be. So anyway, tough place again, but you guys were amazing. You and Matt.
Yeah, good luck this week, next week, whenever it is. I think I don't even know, a couple days from now.
Yeah, a couple days from now. So yeah, thank you. And again, you and Matt are doing fabulous things with your program. It's been amazing to see.
Thank you.
I'm smiling because you guys, we're just wrapping up, and a conversation about the whole thing broke out, which is great, and that's what this is all about. You guys have tremendous respect for each other, and the level of knowledge, this goes so deep, right? Because it's just amazing. So I really appreciate you guys having the conversation here, and good luck on the PWBA season this upcoming year.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, a big thank you to Lauren Russo and Julia Bond for coming on the show, taking time out of their busy schedule as the collegiate bowling season wraps up and they both pursue national championships, and also giving their perspective on the upcoming PWBA Tour season. All right, coming up next, we've got the final frame. Let's see if we can put a bow on this interesting episode with Masters champion Gary Haines and college bowling. The final frame is next. One of the things USBC Executive Director Chad Murphy often talks about is the competitive ladder in bowling. It's basically a model where different levels of competition exist in the sport, starting at the recreational level and going all the way up to the PBA and PWBA tours. The logic behind why it is such an important thing to have is that by offering bowlers the ability to participate at whichever level of competition they are currently at, it helps cater to the greatest number of people possible. and gives the sport the best opportunity to grow. On this month's show, we saw two perfect examples of this in action. At the collegiate level, especially today, there is a constantly escalating level of competition that is both encouraging young athletes to get more involved in the sport via huge opportunities to pay for higher education, while also providing some athletes with the highest level of competition they'll experience in their bowling career, as most collegiate athletes will never go on to a career on the PBA or PWBA tour, which is fine. For some, the dream of a pro tour career is just not in the cards, and that could be due to financial reasons, or the desire to start a family, or just not having any interest in leaving home and living out of a suitcase. But for people like Gary Haines, the Masters, or the Queens in the case of the top women, provides the bowler who never gave the pro tour a shot the opportunity to fulfill a dream of once again competing at the highest level. When we see stories like those of Gary Haines, it inspires us to realize that even if we don't go on to become the next E.J. Tackett or Julia Bond, that the opportunity still exists to compete in this great sport. And for those who never plan to do that, but are good enough to make it into one of the 200+ college programs that offer bowling, that experience is also rewarding in that it can provide an outlet to taste competition at a high level and build relationships with teammates and fellow bowlers from around the country. I know in my case, I stayed away from competing once I got to college, as my school didn't really have a competitive bowling program. And once I started my work career, I could have bowled in the Masters, but I stayed away because I didn't think I was good enough. But now that I'm a little older, I've realized that these competitive opportunities exist for all of us at our own levels to participate in. So I've decided to throw my hat in the ring again and bowl the Senior Masters this June. Even though it means I'm a senior, I can't wait to feel the adrenaline of competing in high-level competition once again. However, despite the fact that I still have 4 years of eligibility left in college, I'm not sure I'm going to be giving that a try. Although it might be kind of fun and funny to see a senior bowler competing at the ITCs. Thanks for watching the show, and until next month, may you fill every frame.